They really hurt, these knuckles of mine.
This fight was between Sendo Takeshi, the 4th-ranked featherweight boxer in the world, versus Jose Nargo, the 5th-ranked featherweight boxer in the world and the Mexican featherweight champion. So this fight starts with Sendo already being pretty beat up because Masvidal landed a pretty nice uppercut in the waiting room. The most comical part of this fight, by the way, was Masvidal laughing maniacally at the thought of Sendo losing. Sendo's injuries are presented as one excuse as to why he can't keep up with Nargo, though honestly I think if Sendo was fresh, he would still be having a decent amount of trouble dealing with his strategy, which was originally intended to be used on Sendo at full power. Nargo's hits had to be pretty light because he has to move away as fast as possible before eating a single punch from Sendo, but still, over the 8 rounds that he does this, the damage does pile up. So even without prior injuries, Sendo's mobility would have been affected from this consistent barrage of strikes. In boxing, the defensive game is never really appreciated as much as it should be. Nargo weaves in and out, flawlessly landing hooks and punches, while Sendo fails to get anything for an entire 24 minutes. This takes an immense amount of skill and mental fortitude, and the reason we are given as to why Nargo is capable of performing this feat is because he has sparred for years with Ricardo Martinez, the best featherweight boxer in the world. I have always liked Sendo since his very first introduction, but he never really gets any development. His mindset doesn't change much, his fighting style doesn't seem to change that much, other than he just gets better at it. But somehow, I still grow to like Sendo more and more and more with every fight. I'm becoming a slow fan of him. Somehow, I really enjoy just his pure, teeth-gritting determination. A lot of characters in Hajime no Ippo, they are analyzing their opponents, they're considering all these factors, they're basically summarizing the events that are happening in their head when we see their thoughts. But with Sendo, his thoughts are just so pure and raw. It's literally just, I have to hit you, I want to hit you, you've sparred with the best, and now I want to see if I'm stronger than you. I mean, you gotta appreciate somebody who's so blunt and straight ahead and to the point. There's no distractions, nothing but, I want to hit you. The Naniwa Tiger is an awesome nickname, but here we have Sendo being compared to Sabretooth, which is fine and all, but honestly, the art for the Sabretooth looks a little bit more cartoonish than it should in my opinion. It just doesn't look fierce or scary. The whole point with Sendo is he's supposed to exude this utterly intimidating and dominating aura, but the image of the tiger behind him doesn't capture that. Still, I do like the comparison. Saber-toothed cats did have a shorter lumbar region, and their front legs were longer than their hind legs, so they were these massively, almost bear-like creatures. Incredibly muscular, but as a result of their anatomy, they weren't that big on agility. And this matches Sendo in the fight really well. I think it works as a good metaphor. Now, it is thought, though, that saber-toothed cats took down prey with their limbs. Their teeth actually weren't meant to be used during the hunt. They're fairly fragile and are presumed to have broken easily, and saber-toothed tigers actually have a much weaker bite force than do lions. So when Sendo's punch is referred to as a bite, that's not directly one-to-one with the actual animal. But it's fine. I mean, when it comes to manga and anime, animal metaphors are really never 100% spot on. Nargo defeating Sendo is compared to a saber-toothed cat going extinct because when the larger megafauna are gone, it cannot capture the smaller, more agile prey. Now, this was an actual hypothesis about the extinction of saber-toothed cats, but recent research back in 2012 has showed that based on tooth wear patterns, it does not seem that saber-toothed cats were limited by food resources in relation to their extinction. But yes, the metaphor still overall works pretty well. It's honestly better than a lot of manga I've seen. It's still effective, and it's a pretty creative way to get the point across. Alright, sorry for all that information, but hey, I really love animals. As the fight goes on, Sendo's form goes all over the place and out of whack, but this basically helps him a bit because Nargo is having a harder time reading the trajectories of Sendo's punches, which he has to avoid very carefully. Sendo's wild punches combined with his instincts and capability to read the opponent does eventually lead to a hit connecting. But before we can see a smash, Nargo goes in for the clinch. This is a clinch where Sendo basically can't swing his arms at all, and it leads to the creation of a move that I find both really dumb, but also really awesome. It's dumb because I just don't think this is at all applicable in a real boxing match. Sendo basically gives a really bad friction burn while clenching his fist and twisting his wrist. However, what makes this so awesome is just the way Sendo's hands are drawn. Just the intensity, the tension. You can feel electricity coming off his arm as he's flexing it. And then the actual panels when he twists his gloves and his fist digs into Nargo's skin. The imagery of Sendo's attack basically rips Nargo's flesh off. Nargo visualizes that his side has been torn open. I find that super awesome. Such a spectacular way to show the destruction that Sendo is capable of. So this attack during the clinch allows Sendo to follow up with something that he calls a knuckle drop, but is really just a chopping right. So he copies Mashiba as Mashiba copied him. Nargo does manage to block this to an extent, but it's just so visceral and applies so much force that we have imagery of Nargo's eyeball, basically flying out as part of his scalp has been grazed clean off. It's a very effective and dynamic way of showing force that we are not yet used to. I appreciate this novel approach that is now unique to Sendo, because apparently his knuckles are on a whole other level, even from Ippo's. Just raw, instinctual-driven devastation. Sendo's unable to follow up the chopping right with a smash because of the damage he took, and his legs just won't allow him to move forward. But he does manage to get Nargo into the corner, and just swings his arms wide open, completely foregoing any defense whatsoever, to have Nargo trapped in the corner. While Nargo sees Sendo's fighting style as primitive and outdated, the fact that Nargo did not mean to go back into the corner, he did something that he did not plan to do, to Sendo that shows a lack of spirit. So he's just going in for the kill. So Nargo utilizes the same counter that Gonzalez used on Ippo, and they trade hits, but Sendo gets the vast majority of the force. Sendo withstands the blow, fueled by the perspective that he's fighting Knuckles with a broken spirit, and goes in for the smash! I just love the art for Sendo's techniques. The adrenaline and ferocity is there in ample amounts. Now, one of the small complaints I do have, though, is that Nargo never really received a heavy blow. He just received a couple of glancing blows. Yet this is enough to take out his legs at the most unfortunate, opportune moment. The thing that counteracts this, though, is, again, Sendo had taken damage from Mashiba, and Sendo had a great opportunity to finish the fight, but was just unable to move forward at the time. So it's almost like both characters had the plot affect them negatively, in a way that feels kind of fair. It narrowly manages to squeeze by without feeling like bullshit writing on the author's part. So yes, the Sendo Smash! I appreciate the angle on Nargo where it looks like his head got blown clean off, when instead it's just reeling so far back that we can't even see it anymore. And you gotta love Sendo's confidence and his ability to judge feedback on his punch. He landed it straight on, and he knows this is it. This is the match ender. He raises his arms in victory before Gonzalez even slumps to the mat and the count begins. And after Nargo comes to shouting, "I'm alive!" you really gotta wonder. Again, this is the guy who sparred with Ricardo Martinez, the best champion, yet all it takes is just a good solid hit from Sendo to take this guy out and make him legitimately fear for his life. So I can't help but feel that Sendo's punches are already at the world level. All he has to do is find a better way to get them to connect. This fight gives me the impression that Sendo is above Ippo in terms of competency at this current point in the manga. Sendo declares that he wants his next opponent to be Alfredo Gonzalez, which is really interesting because to me, it feels like Sendo wants to defeat the person that's defeated Ippo, and then fight Ippo on Ippo's way up, and finally defeat him. Third time's the charm, right? That's awesome. But to be honest, I'm slowly becoming a Sendo fanboy. I kind of want Sendo to win that fight and kind of just destroy Ippo. I think I'll be rooting for the Naniwa Tiger. My main complaint about this fight, though, is that Nargo does feel rather undeveloped. I doubt we'll see him in the series again. I kind of doubt he'll be utilized for any future fights. It really didn't feel that personal. There was no connection with Nargo that the audience could have made. And I think that was a bit unfortunate. Even if this character doesn't come back, I still think he deserved a slightly better portrayal. The focus on Sendo, though, was handled impeccably, and he really does come across as a demon. Sendo and Mashiba have always been huge impacts on Ippo, and now Ippo is advancing his philosophy on boxing, Ippo's viewed boxing as something where two combatants put all the efforts of their training to the test. But now when Ippo has the potential to become best in the world, he is starting to see this may not be enough. You have to think about destroying the opponent. Mashiba and Sendo were the perfect examples to illustrate this for Ippo, and I'm really curious to see exactly how he's going to incorporate this new perspective into his fighting, because he may very well end up being a monster. But can Ippo do this and retain his old character traits? I don't really see that he can, so I'm curious how the author is going to hash this out. So my consensus on this fight, I really liked it. It's just that Sendo is becoming so lovable for me. Something about that imagery of him clenching his arms and just putting it all into this destructive, annihilation-causing punch. It's just so cool. I don't know, I guess the hype and the feelings that triggered in me sort of allowed me to forgive some of the weaker writing and Nargo being relatively uninteresting. And this is ignoring the fact that he's a defensive outboxer. That's not the part that's uninteresting, it's just his personality and the way his outboxing was portrayed that was a little bit tepid. Still, we gotta remember, this was a 7-chapter fight, and a lot of these chapters were 12 pages. So for a fight that short, I was not let down. There has been a lot longer fights in Ippo that I found more disappointing than this one. So all in all, I'd give it a thumbs up. Up next is Takamura-san!
あいつらが待ってるんだ。オールの大観衆が俺様を待ってるんだ。